Hey everyone, welcome to today's video where we're going to talk about the semiconductor space, specifically on the AI side of things. We can see that a couple of days ago Sam Altman was talking about this target project of around $500 billion investment in the AI, in the American AI market, to cement USA's position in this AI market. A lot has been happening, and out of the rear view mirror we have this Chinese company called DeepSeek that essentially has been able to train this model, this kind of model, the same like ChatGPT from OpenAI, with much less funds available and in much shorter time. And it's if you look at the reviews of this, looks like it's very competitive. So how will this affect the broader AI market? Well, it's difficult to say. A lot of discussions is happening online. For example, you can see that there's quite a lot of leaks coming out of Meta, previously Facebook, where people are not happy and they think that the middle management seems to be a lot of older men that don't have necessarily that much of a understanding of these AI models. I mean, you need to be either experienced in mathematics, in programming, and so on. Is it that a case that Meta's middle management are just essentially just buying more and more GPUs, are taking the more GPUs we buy, that's the deciding factor? And here comes the Chinese company DeepSeek and essentially showing that it's not about the number of GPUs that you have only. Sure, it helps a little bit, but you need to have some kind of, smart usage of the data, right? And smart people making these models. So it's one really interesting twist to this, all of these big companies like Facebook. We have Microsoft, we have Google spending tens of billions, multiple tens of billions each in this AI market. And now suddenly we are seeing maybe another way to tackle this problem or opportunity. We can also see that AMD seems to be very happy because they have been engaging their MI300Xs in this DeepSeek V3 model. Good to see as an AMD investor. We can also, I showed you this one with the not so satisfied Meta employees. Then we have this guy here. So again, it's a lot of conflicting information out there. This guy, the billionaire of Scale AI, Alexander Wang, says that DeepSeek actually has many more AI data center accelerators than they say. Due to the restriction from the USA, the company is not allowed to be frank about it. So we are seeing conflicting data out there, but no matter how you dice it, they came out of nowhere. This kind of company came out of nowhere and have a model that are competing with the very best of the models from USA. And even though, let's say, even if they have 50,000 H100s, as this guy says, they're still having restrictions. So it's easier for Meta and Microsoft and Google and so on to compete in this market, and the Chinese company, since AMD and Nvidia are not allowed to sell their best chips to China anymore. We can also see that AMD is essentially putting on the gas pedal, and they are going to hire many more software engineers in one of their departments. They are aiming to double their size of the team for every 6 months. So finally things are happening. We know that the CEO Lisa Su had a meeting a few weeks back with Dylan Patel of the semi-analysis or semi-wiki, and they essentially came with a conclusion and listened to the feedback that AMD needs to work on ROCm and try to be more competitive in the software side. We know that AMD's hardware side is very competitive. You could argue that in terms of pure architecture of their transistors, you could argue that they're potentially more high-end than Nvidia. So it's a very interesting time to see that AMD finally takes this seriously. Is it too late? Difficult to say. But then again, for AMD, they're also very good in the non kind of only AI focus. Sure, the title of the video says AI, but I think this kind of medicine, trying to figure out new solutions in medicine and life science. I think this is more a high performance computing, where AMD still has a very nice advantage. Probably every single high performance supercomputer you see out there, like Frontier, El Capitan, has either AMD CPU or AMD CPU and GPUs in it. So it's really good to see that other than the traditional large language model, you can see applications of AMD hardware out there. And this is very important because when we look at AMD segments, I think everyone talks about data center, this one, right? This segment here. and for sure it's probably for now the most important one, especially going also into this year or next year, maybe potentially 2027 and so on. But I still think like AMD, like expected with the Q4 numbers, they're expected to have around 25 to 26 billion in revenue for 2024, of which 12.6 should be from data center, which means like around half of it is from non-data center business, right? So AMD is not like Nvidia. They are not a pure play in AI, although you could argue that half of their company is essentially kind of AI, so it's almost pure play. And the other half, I mean, you would for sure use AI in gaming, in the client business. Your laptops are gonna be for sure being using AI on the edge. You are seeing like Microsoft Copilot, and some companies like Apple maybe like to have a more localized large language model, smaller ones for sure, because you cannot fit them in a small laptop. But so yeah, it's a competition between firstly between the training of the models. That has been the main thing over the past, let's say, yeah, the training segment has for sure been the more important one over the past at least a couple of years. But then there's a future where we are kind of seeing that inferencing will take over. I really like this article from Uncover Alpha from Mr. Richard Jark, and the conclusion is that I think this image is showing it very good. You can see that in the first step, in the blue one, pre-training and post-training. Then they have like post-training breakdown, and then you can see this small segment here, the purple one. Can maybe I zoom in on the image? The purple one is essentially the inference. The inferencing is when me, you, and others are going and asking these language models different questions, or trying to get help on our code or whatever it is, maybe generating an image. And then as you go onwards, as the models get better and better, the inferencing, so the purple part, will become larger and larger. And again, AMD has a really competitive position on inference. And I have to be honest, even MI300 and even MI325X for AMD, they are like repurposed high performance computing data center chips, right? So what I mean with that is that AMD has been over the past 5-6 years very good in high performance computing, i.e. like non-AI data centers, like these like large data centers that used to look at scientific research, like you're calculating where the star constellations are gonna be in like 20,000 years, or you're looking like DNA research where you need very accurate numbers. You need like 32-bit or 64-bit precision, whereas these AI calculations are done at like 8 or 4 bits precision, much lower precision. You don't need that. When you are asking like inquiries to ChatGPT, you don't need as much a precision as let's say when you're doing that for like trying to sequence a DNA molecule of some sorts. So that's the difference. And AMD has been really strong on high performance computing, and still going to be that, right? But as Nvidia was like 1 year or 18 months ahead, they had to essentially repurpose the MI300 chip, which was like their GPU part combined with a CPU. And I think the first pure play AMD chip that is kind of focused on AI, I mean, you can argue that MI300 and MI325X are AI chips, but not pure play. I wouldn't call that that way. Whereas the H100 from NVIDIA and B100 are pure AI play. They're not as great on the HPC side. So as you go to higher and higher precision, AMD's chips already outclasses even the best of the B100s and B200s from NVIDIA. Even MI300 is very competitive compared to the B100 and B200 on HPC workloads. But now with MI350, that's the first pure play with native support for like Matrix 8 FP8 and FP4, which is gonna be very competitive with the best of NVIDIA's of chips that they are offering in late this year. So I think that's where we're gonna see AMD excel, both in training compared to previously, but also even more so in in the inference side. As I showed you, inference is gonna be a bigger part of the pie as we go onward. And despite all of this, we know that the market is growing anyways. Like even if AMD doesn't get any market share more, the actual market in its size is growing. So it's a very interesting time to be alive. Difficult to say how this is gonna go, especially with the update on DeepSeek. But going to I think the stock price is very interesting. You can see that today AMD didn't lose that much, only 0.16%. Nvidia down, 3%. Same with Intel, ARM, and so on. I don't know, like, is it like AMD in a process where people are finally understanding that it's bottoming out? I think it's very valuable at these prices. Genuinely think that, looking at my numbers, again, scrolling to expectations for 2025, I could see AMD doing like 10, 12 billion in Q3 and Q4 of this year for sure, per quarter. And I could see them do like 5 to 6 billion on a data center alone, which is almost the entire quarterly revenue for AMD until Q2 of 2022, bar a few like exceptional quarters like in 2022 and 2021. AMD, like, until these two, let's say until Q2 of 2024, they had like 5 or below 6 billion. And it's possible that Q3 and Q4 of 2025 will have more than 5 or 6 billion only on data center. And then we have the other segments as well. So my estimations are at the minimum 30 billion, but I think it's very, very conservative. I think it's possible that they do 40 billion revenue this year, at least 38. So it's gonna be a great year for AMD in my opinion. Previously I've shown you more detail, like, how I arrive at these numbers, but I think the more important chart is probably this one here, because we are gonna look at how many chips are AMD gonna be able to sell. You can see that this is AMD on this row 8 to 13. I would argue that Q1 and Q2 are gonna be slightly slower increase compared to, like, end of 2024. You can see that we ended probably, we don't have the numbers yet, we'll have it in a couple of, maybe in next week. But AMD probably gonna land around 2 billion in Q4 of 2024 for data center. For specifically AI GPU, so instinct data centers. And I think Q1 of this year will beat that number, and also Q2, but not by the like same increase of percentage quarter over quarter as you would have expected. But I think in the second half, when MI350 will enter the market, that's where AMD actually gonna take some nice market share. So these are where I have like 150,000 chips for this Q1. I think that's realistic. We know that only Meta has probably 250 to 300,000 MI300s already, right? Only one company. Sure, it's probably AMD's biggest customer. But if Meta only increases even their purchases from AMD by 20% year on year, that covers essentially Q1 and Q2 of AMD's manufacturing capability just only from Meta. And then we have obviously Microsoft are talking very proudly about AMD, that on inference AMD is very competitive. And Meta also says that their inference is running solely of MI300s. It offers more memory bandwidth, so why wouldn't they use it? And it's also cheaper than Nvidia. So it's just a no-brainer, right? So when you consider all of this, I think AMD is gonna be delivering short of 1 million units this year, but maybe 800,000 units this year. And you compare that number to 2024, these are rough estimations. That same number was 360,000 or so, between 300 to 400,000 units, which means that AMD is gonna double most likely they're gonna double their number of MI300 series of chips sold, which that would make me very, very happy investor. And I think that's gonna be probably it for today. It's just, don't look at AMD as a pure AI play, although it's 50-60% AI. AMD, is gonna soon enter the PlayStation 6 cycle. I mean, we already have PS5 Pro late last year. Probably by end of next year, we're gonna have really strong rumors for PlayStation 6, which most likely 99.9% will be AMD. AMD will gonna launch on TSMC 3 nanometer their finally a flagship GPU probably in 2026, competing with NVIDIA's 5090. We know that the Department of Defense and many US institutions, but also other countries, are investing in high performance computing. So again, not like AI data centers, but pure high performance computing, for research, as I mentioned, like life science and so on and so forth. And that's probably gonna be with AMD, especially on the CPU side, since they are undisputed number one by a large distance. But most likely even on GPU they have quite higher lots of success, since they are actually ahead of Nvidia on high performance GPUs in my opinion. So when you consider all of this, you also see that some analysts are starting to see that it's probably just too cheap right now. The earnings is on February the 4th, so I don't think there's a whole lot of time. And again, just finally to look at the data here, look at the Google Trends. You can see that looking at large language model in red, inference in blue, they are nothing compared to AI. Why did I look at these three terms? Well, I think for the broader public, AI is, including all those two terms as well. But now if I remove the AI and look at the large language model and inference, right? You can see that inference in the blue is still kind of not going up that much, right? Which means that I think still we haven't seen this like explosive move that a lot of people are talking about when it comes to inferencing being more and more important. This is just one article. There's tons of them, tons of YouTube videos. So I think like in a couple of years time, you look at Google Trends, you will probably see inference being, surging like this red one, if not even more. So that's gonna play into AMD's hands in my opinion. Despite the surprise from China as well. Even the Chinese model is gonna at some point, all these models are meant to be used by consumers, i.e. the inferencing is very important. So again, sorry to beating a dead horse, but time and time again, I honestly think this is one of the best opportunities on the stock market right now. This is not investment advice, but please like and help me with this nice subscribe if you like the video, engage in the comment, and see you in the next one.